Hey, everybody. We got a special episode for you this week. We have the 2022 course preview for the Casco Bay Swimrun by Odyssey. That also means cue the rock flute. Welcome to the Löw Tide Böyz, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and this is a special bonus episode for everyone.
Bonus.
Little bonus action. We haven't done a bonus episode in a while, so this will be a B under episode guide. And we are doing an updated course preview for Casco Bay. As some of you know, Odyssey changes their courses every once in a while, and this has been a tradition for Casco because there's just so many routes through that chain of islands. So we figured our 2021 race report is no longer accurate. So let's do an addendum to that and give you guys some updated information for this year's race that's coming up in July.
July 17th, 2022. So let's go. The total distance covered for the long course is 23 miles. The short course clocks in at 10.5 miles. Total run distance on the long course, 18 miles. Short course has 8.5 miles. The swim distance for the long course, 8,050 meters, which is about 5 miles. The short course has 3,220 meters, which is about 2 miles. Your longest swim on that long course, 1,260, and the short course clocking in at just under 900 at 890. And your longest run, 3.1 miles on both the short and the long course.
Yeah, so we did this. We've done this. This will be the third time we're doing this race.
One of the best races in the United States for swimming.
And this will be the third course that we've done.
Yes.
So I think we've been on a bunch of these islands. We're going to be doing them in a little bit different direction. And we're like, hey, you know who we should talk to?
The guy who lives on the island.
Lives on the island. And the guy who designed the course. Seems like a safe bet to have do a little leg-by-leg breakdown.
Safe bet.
Of course, we're talking about the one and only John Stevens, our friend, stud swim runner, Purple Patch coach, course designer, and race director at Odyssey Swimrun. So we just asked him to come on and just be like, lay it on us, dude.
That's basically what we said.
What's
lay
new
it on us
for 2022?
So we're going to kick it over to John here in a second, but we also have a few other episodes that would be helpful for reference for you potentially on this. So we have our course preview from 2021 that you can listen to. It won't be the same in terms of the leg by leg, but you can get a sense of the type of terrain or the
basically everything except the leg by leg breakdown is
still applicable.
Chef's kiss.
Yes.
And that's episode 76, everyone.
And then we also have our race report from Casco Bay if you want to hear how it went for us, the Löw Tide Böyz on our I dare I say, Chris, I felt like that was our real kind of breakthrough race. We really kind of
solid performance.
A great performance for us. We were very happy with how that went. And then we also had a little nugget, a little blast from the past. We unearthed some old audio from a pre-Löw Tide Böyz random audio recording about our time in 2018 Casco Bay race. And all these will be linked in the show notes. So if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, head on over to lowtideboys.com and check out the show notes there. We'll have all those other episodes linked in the show notes there, and the leg-by-leg breakdown is all in the show notes as well. So you can listen, follow along, use it to mark up your paddles, all the good stuff.
Yeah. So if you're keeping score at home, it's episode 84, for our 2021 race report, and it's episode 117 for our 2018 race report.
Yes, and we're going to kick it to John in just a second, promise. After last year, we had a really awesome meetup at a brewery post-race, and we're looking to resurrect that experience. So
that was super fun.
Stay tuned for details on that if you want to grab a beer with the boys. We will be at some brewery after the race, and we had
post-race party.
30 people show up last time and had beers
with
a bunch of people. It was just so great. Everyone basically just sharing their war stories of how the day went for them and how much fun they had. It was a really fulfilling experience for Chris and I, and a really cool community experience for everybody. So this is a consolidated version of our normal sort of course preview episode, and this one's specifically for the long course. Now, if you signed up and you're like, Löw Tide Böyz, I'm doing the short course, don't worry, we already got you. We released an episode called Couch to Casco, and that one's specifically about the short course. That will be linked in the show notes as well. So if you're racing, long or short, we got you covered. Be sure to head to lowtideboys.com, pull up the show notes, and you'll see the links to the short course preview, also with John Stevens as well. Because why not, everybody? So
Definitely.
There's been a lot of ado, but without further ado, here is.
Wait, hold on. Can I? Okay. No, I'm just kidding.
You can if you need to.
No, I'm just kidding.
Without any further ado, here is Purple Patch Fitness coach John Stevens and Casco Bay resident. Lives on the Start Island,
Little Diamond
Island. Yeah. Take it away, John.
All right, so this year's long course Casco Bay route starts on Chebeague Island, which is actually the start line from year one. And so we'll be right on the end of the Chebeague Island wharf, Chebeague Island Pier, and starting right there and kicking right off. So off the ferry, onto the dock, right into the first run. And a lot of this is going to seem familiar if anyone's done Chebeague in the past few years. You're going to find that the course meets up with where we've been in the past few years pretty quickly, in particularly into last year and the year before. Last year, right into kind of what was actually the second to last run, last swim, and last run into the finish line. But we're going to find ourselves kind of very quickly following the road on Chebeague, down onto the beach, and into a very quick cove swim. And this is what was the final swim last year across this very tiny little cove. It's about 500 yards across over to this little beach. And then it's going to be a beach run, rock hopping into sand, into what was the finish line last year at Chebeague Island Boatyard. This year it's a beach run. We're going to run through the boatyard, kind of cut through, up over onto the road, and then we're going to find our way back onto the trails. And we did hit some of these trails last year, but now we're kind of going in a reverse direction. So we're going to kind of reverse direction some of these trails through Chebeague Island, coming out eventually on the point, which is the sandbar over to Little Chebeague. And we're going to, I think this year, given the tide and where it's at, it's probably going to be one of those years where it's either a knee-deep wade, knee to waist-deep wade, or a little bit of a swim. But again, the tide's going to be incoming, so it's going to be pretty intense across the sandbar from Big Chebeague to Little Chebeague. So it's one of those years, if you're swimming, you're going to find yourself getting kind of ripped in the current a little bit. You might be able to wade most of that, but it's going to be a little bit of a battle across that sandbar this year over to Little Chebeague. But once you get there, we have that little bit of a half-mile swim, and then we have that tricky swim over to Long Island. And again, this is a very current-heavy swim. So at this point, it's going to be an outgoing tide. So I apologize. So on the sandbar, it's actually going to be sweeping you out a little bit as well. And then so this one is going to be sweeping you. If you're swimming across to Long Island outgoing, it's going to be pushing you from right to left. And that tide can be pretty tricky. So that's one of those ones where it's going to be heads up swimming, watching the buoys, watching the boats on the other side and the anchorage, seeing which direction they're pointed in. So you're knowing which way to aim your swim. And you are going to have to play to the current on this one. Now with this, you can run down the beach pretty much as far as you want. And it's going to be a straight shot across, but really watch that current to see which way it's going to be pushing you. And then it seems like a short swim across, but with the current over to long, it's going to be a little bit, seem longer than it is. But you'll exit onto Long Island. And now again, we're moving in reverse direction than we have in the past few years. So we're going to kind of go up the road on Long Island into the trails of what we call the Black Forest, and that Black Forest Trail. So some single track through there, a little bit of elevation gain, single track trail, a lot of fun to kind of bushwhack through that, back onto the roads. And then you find your way eventually through an aid station out onto what we call the Nubble, which is a house on a point, which kind of looks like a lighthouse. And it's going to be a rocky entry into a swim. And this is about a 1,300-yard swim from what we call the Nubble across the backside of Long Island here, across Shark Cove, over to a little bit of a spit of sand. And this is one of those deceivingly long swims. It's about 1,300 yards, and it's one of those where you're going to get about 600 yards into it, and you're going to be like, wait, shouldn't I be there by now? It keeps going. So be prepared for that swim because it's longer than it seems. And what's even going to make it longer is when you actually do finish that swim, you hop out on a little spit of sand, and you're probably out of the water for about 15 seconds, and then you're back into the water. So then, again, you go through this about 1,300-yard swim, right back in, and then you've got about a 300-yard swim right after that. So it's very quick. I mean, you don't even have time to take your goggles off. That swim over is to Vail Island. And so that one is not super long. You're not going to find a lot of current on that. It's going to be pretty direct, but getting out on Vail is going to be tricky. Tide's going to be low. It's going to be slippery. There's going to be rocks. And now we're on Vail. Vail is all rocks. This is just a half mile of billy goat rock jumping across this island. So really watch your footing, watch what you're doing. Vail is, as we say, you're not going to win the race on Vail, but you can lose the race on Vail. This is where you're going to slip and twist an ankle or hurt yourself. So be careful kind of coming across this and rock jumping. And again, now we're reverse direction from the past few years, same direction as the first few years. So if you're a real veteran, this is going to seem familiar to you. But you're going to make your way around about a half mile around Vail. Don't cut through, lots of poison ivy, but make your way around it. And then you're going to have a short swim back over to the beach onto Long Island. From there, you're going to get out. You're going to have a little bit of an unexpected hill climbing out of that after that swim. It's going to feel steeper than it should, just given what you've been through on Vail. But plow through that, some road running across Long Island, and then we're going to get into one of the longer swims of the day. And again, this was a swim we introduced 2 years ago, or I guess at this point 3 years ago, but 2 races ago. And we had done it in reverse from Cow Island to Long. And this year, we're going from Long Island to Cow. And this is the longest swim of the day. So after that long swim, you're going to come across onto Cow Island, which is really cool. There's a nice old fort there. There's the summer camp there that they've got running. But a good opportunity, again, to come off of that long swim and give your arms a bit of a rest. But with that, you've got some single track trail running through Cow. And again, that's going to be kind of some heads up running through that. On the backside of Cow, you're going to have a pretty quick swim. It's about maybe 200 yards. So you're off of Cow, right back into the water. Quick swim over to what we call Diamond Cove on Great Diamond. And again, now we're still following pretty much the reverse course of what we've done in the past few years. And so on to Great Diamond, dirt road running through Diamond Cove onto Great Diamond all the way across. And this is where the race gets different than anything actually we've ever done before, which is kind of unique and pretty cool. So this time your long course is going to meet up with short course, and we're going to head over to the Great Diamond Island Pier. And about this point, it should be right around, for most people, right around low tide. And so with that, we're going to be right off the Great Diamond Island dock. And so once again, we've got a pier jump. And so with that, it'll be maybe if you go off the end about 20 feet, 25 feet down of a jump from the top of the pier. If anyone is not up for that, there's a small little ramp, which will drop you down about 5 to 10 feet. And then beyond that, there is a ramp down to a float where you can just kind of hop in about 1 foot into the water. But from there, we go off the Great Diamond Pier into a swim over to Peaks Island. And again, this is a new swim entry, new swim exit for us, which we're pretty excited about. I think it's going to be pretty cool. But we go right across the channel there and come out on what was called Trefetherin Landing. And so come up on a boat ramp onto Peaks. And from there, it's going to be, again, a little bit of a new run to the backside of the island on some paved road. And then, again, meet up with some familiar course that we've done before in previous years. But paved road for a little bit on the backside, which is super scenic. Waves crashing right there on the shore road. And then there's going to be a hard right-hand turn, basically right into the woods, right into the trails. And this is going to be some tricky trail running. In years past, we've had people, myself included, get lost on these trails. and mixed up a little bit back in there. So this is definitely heads up racing. Really keep your eyes open for the flags along the way and see what's coming, and make sure you don't get too lost in there. But, single track trail, that's going to be, again, not known trail. So really keep your eye open for the flags through until we eventually make our way to Battery Steel, which again is a familiar site from the past few years. We always kind of tend to pass through here, but through Battery Steel, which is a fort on the backside of the island, out through the trails onto to the road on the backside. And we're going to follow that paved road around the bend and right into Torrington Point, which is going to be the swim over to Cushing Island. And at this point, the tide should be incoming. So that tide's going to be pushing you from left to right. So really kind of keep an eye on what's happening with that swim over there. That's going to be a very tide-affected swim over to Cushing. And again, it's one of those where on paper it doesn't seem too long, but with the tides really moving you, and at this point in the race, if you're long course, you're pretty tired. You've kind of made your way through it. So really be hyper aware of what's happening with the current on that. Watch the buoys, aim and swim accordingly with what you kind of see happening there with that. And then we ended up on Cushing. And again, this is a familiar run. Same direction we've done actually the past few years on Cushing. Dirt road, some trail, a little bit of everything through the fort back there. Pretty scenic, really, really cool run. About a mile on Cushing. And then we get into the second to last swim over to House Island. And again, it's one of those swims that if you look at it on paper, it doesn't seem too crazy, but you get into it and that's a long swim. It's about 1,000 yards or so. And again, you're going to be fighting a little bit of current on that. You're going to have to aim as to where you're going, but you're going to take that swim straight over to House Island and run through the fort there, which again is really cool situation to see. And you go through the fort and the yurts and the tents they've built there. And if anyone's looking for a place to stay, check out Fort Lind, Fortland. A really cool place if you want to find something a little more rustic, but running right through the campground, right through the fort on that island. Again, it's not going to be a super long run, grassy trails on that one through, and that takes you to the last swim, straight across the peaks. And at this point, it doesn't matter what the map says. That's the last swim. It's going to be the longest swim of the day because you just got to get it done. But you're going to be swimming right across the peaks to the beach, coming out on the beach. And from that point, there's a little bit of a grassy climb there. And there's some kind of wooden beams put in. I don't want to call it a staircase, but I will call it a climb up this grassy hill. And there's nothing worse than finishing that last swim than having to climb up on these kind of uneven steps, climb up to the finish line. But when you do get there, that's it. It's over. It's done. The beer and the water and the food are all waiting for you, and the course is over.
I thought that was super helpful. I think
I'm going to listen to it again.
Yeah. I'm going to listen on the plane, definitely heading out there. If you're marking up your paddles, if you have the show notes up, you'll see the leg-by-leg breakdown. You can listen to John basically lay out the course. You can also pull up the map and kind of listen along. I find that really helpful, just to kind of visually kind of place myself. And if everything you heard got you super stoked and you haven't signed up yet, use the code Löw Tide Böyz.
Save 15% off any Odyssey race, not just Casco Bay.
Exactly.
Any Odyssey race.
Yeah.
But we'll look forward to seeing everybody July 17th at Peaks Island at the finish. There'll be brews, burgers, water,
veggie burgers,
and all sorts of fun. So we're looking forward to it.
So fun.
See you there. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Sign up for a newsletter at lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at the Löw Tide Böyz on Instagram. If you have any suggestions for the show or questions for us, send us a DM or an email at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of all our swim run activities, podcast, and other stuff.
Yeah, other stuff.
Way
to keep it PG. Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Go for a run.
Then another swim.
Then another run.
And then another swim.
and then another run.
And then just keep going.
So
Until you're done.
Or maybe can't
And then
stop.